Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Well, again, here we go. A comment keeps popping up about the new pistol brace rule. This is a good comment, and this is one that I think a lot of my really sharp viewers caught. They started connecting the dots, reading between the lines. They can kind of see what lies ahead, and I think this is a really good way to plan for what we may have to do with any firearm that we have with an attached stabilizing brace, or any firearm that we think might be subject to this new ATF pistol brace rule. So today, we're going to start with real basic things, and we're going to kind of geek out a little bit. It's about something that I've resisted talking about, but the time has finally come that we do need to talk about this. So today, let's spend a few minutes and talk about how the new pistol brace rule suddenly makes gun trusts much more valuable. Okay, so the issue we're talking about today is both the pistol brace rule and gun trust. Now, I have resisted now for a year and a half to do any video on gun trust because I was afraid that my phone would in fact blow up, which is often the case when I breach into a new subject, and I am a little bit worried and doing this video with some trepidation. I will start off that if you really want to streamline the process, the best place to visit for my Washington viewers is waguntrust.com. That is waguntrust.com. And you can kind of get rolling from there. Okay, so here's the topic for today. We know that we have a whole new ton of firearms, a whole new category of firearms. We used to call them pistols with attached stabilizing braces, or AR pistols. Now the federal government wants to call them federally regulated short barrel rifles, and take millions and millions of firearms and now encapsulate them into the National Firearms Act of 1934, make them Title II firearms, subject to federal regulation, subject to federal registration, and of course $200 taxation. Now, during this amnesty period of 120 days, the federal government, always the benevolent ones that they are doing this at the low price of absolutely nothing for you right now. There is an amnesty from the taxation. But under all other normal circumstances, yes, you are registering the firearms, you're going through enhanced background checks, you're doing all sorts of extra hoops that you're going to have to jump through, and you're paying a $200 tax stamp. Now, some of my viewers, especially the real sharp ones out there, you begin to read the tea leaves here and you can see where they're going, which is, hey, does this change the usefulness of gun trust? So now, for the first time ever, here we go. We're going to dip our toes into the water of gun trust here at Washington Gun Law. Let's talk about gun trust. I have had many of you viewers call me, and I appreciate the conversations. I know right now there are going to be some gun trust lawyers that are going to, when I first start talking, they're going to flip out and they're going to be ready to kill me when I start talking. Wait till the end of the video, guys, because you may have a better appreciation for what I have to say. Unlike gun trust lawyers, people who exclusively make their living doing nothing but drafting gun trusts, when you call them, they have a tendency to tell every single person you need a gun trust, and you need a gun trust right now. The truth of the matter is, if we really want to be honest, is that only some of you need gun trusts, okay? And that some of you are those who currently possess NFA items. Well, what are the NFA items that we might currently possess? A short barrel rifle. That is one of the most commonly possessed NFA items. Suppressors or silencers. Those two are NFA items. Those are perhaps the most commonly possessed NFA items. Short barrel shotguns, automatic weapons, other destructive devices. Obviously, those last three categories are mildly rare. However, what we are about to do now is take millions and millions and millions of AR pistols, pistols with attached stabilizing braces, and reclassify them as a short barrel rifle, thus placing them within the purview of the National Firearms Act. And while the evolution and transition of these firearms into the purview of the National Firearms Act has all sorts of drawbacks to it and detrimental effects to it, there is one potential beneficial effect, and it's one that if you have a firearm with this platform and you are looking for ways to legally maneuver your way through this obstacle course. I recognize some of you have a big old F you, shall not infringe, I am not going to comply, and we have always told you here at Washington Gun Law, we do not tell you how to think. We will give you things to think about, okay? You're all big boys and big girls. You can think for yourself, and you know what the consequences are should you choose not to comply with the law and be prosecuted for it, okay? But here's the thing. If we are looking for ways to legally maneuver our way through this whole new obstacle course that ATF has put out in front of us, and we want to make sure that any firearms that we have today are left for the people that we want to leave them for when our time is up, then a gun trust for any person who currently owns an AR pistol, an AK pistol, that they believe they're going to have to do a Form 1 amnesty registration for, then a gun trust becomes a very, very valuable tool for you, and in fact, one that I would highly recommend that you utilize. Now, why do I have a tendency to say only if you own NFA firearms? Well, here's the call that I most frequently get. The call that I most frequently get here at Washington Gun Law is someone that has a large firearm collection, 50, 60, 80 guns, something like that, but not a single one of them is an NFA item. You know, they're his grandpa's shotguns and his dad's hunting rifles and then all the collection that he's added to. And it has handguns and it has rifles and shotguns and semi-automatic rifles and, you know, semi-automatic pistols with stabilizing braces attached and all that. It is a wide, vast inventory. But that collection does not have a single NFA item. There's no short-barreled rifles, there's no suppressors, there's no machine guns, nothing like that in there. They want to build a gun trust. Here's the problem with building them a gun trust, is when we build any trust, okay, what we are essentially doing is we are creating this fictional legal entity called the trust. And then what the grantor, that is the person who actually creates the trust, and trustees, people who are appointed by the grantor as trustees can do, is they can place property into the trust itself, which means the legal owner of the property becomes the trust. So yes, when it comes to certain types of firearms, the trust can actually be the owner of it. However, that is only limited to certain types of firearms. And here's the reason why it's limited to only certain types of firearms. If we take a look at an ATF Form 1, which is the form we have to fill out if we are assembling or building an NFA item, we will see right here at the top of the application that the application can be made by either a corporation, an individual, other legal entity, trust, or government entity. All of those options are there to be the legal owner of this particular firearm. Now, below that, there is what's called the other responsible person, and that is that there has to be an individual who is associated with the management of this trust, and that in all circumstances is the grantor or the person who is creating the trust. Now, when we take a look at a Form 4, an ATF Form 4, which is the form you would use if you are buying an NFA item as is. So I am buying a suppressor off the shelf as is. I would fill out a Form 4. I am buying a fully assembled, completed short barrel rifle from an FFL. I would fill out a Form 4, okay? On that form, again, in Section A, we have the option to have this firearm registered to a corporation, an individual, other legal entity, trust, or government entity. And then, just like with the Form 1, there is an applicant's name, which is the other responsible person. That is the person who is responsible for this trust. So you can see whether we're going to Form 1 an NFA item or we're going to Form 4 an NFA item. We actually can transfer the ownership of that firearm to an entity such as a trust. However, when we go to transfer any other type of firearm, a non-Title II regulated firearm, so your handguns, your pump-action shotguns, your lever-action, your bolt-action rifles, anything that is not regulated by the NFA, then regardless of what state law you are, if your state's requiring paperwork to be done, background checks to be conducted for a private transfer, you will fill out the infamous 4473, or that is the person who's going to receive the firearm will fill out a 4473, okay? Now, When you take a look at a 4473, the document that covers every gun that we can purchase that's not regulated by the NFA, we see that in Section B, the transferee's information, the only information that is allowable in there, therefore the only information that will ever be associated with the ownership of that gun, is an individual, which means that if I built a gun trust for an individual who had 150 firearms, and yet not a single one of them is an NFA item, while that serves as an amazingly concise estate planning document, not a single one of those firearms is actually owned or placed into that trust. And the truth of the matter is, and if a gun trust lawyer was really honest with you about it, when it comes to all the non-Title II firearms, you could also spell that out in your will, and it would have every bit of legal effect as if you'd built a non-NFA gun trust. So the bottom line, if we're going to be really candid and really honest, is that many of you could not have really previously benefited from having an NFA gun trust. However, since the category of short barrel rifles is about to increase exponentially, and the number of individuals who now own NFA items is about to increase exponentially, there is no doubt that in the next 120 days, there will be a significant amount of more firearms that can be transferred lawfully into NFA Gun Trust, and millions of lawful and responsible gun-owning Americans who could benefit from the existence of one. Now, here's what I know the question you're going to ask, and I'm going to try to head it off right now. Well, why don't I just create a trust now, and then I'll just do the NFA registration through that. Here's the problem. Remember, we cannot transfer an item into the gun trust unless it is an NFA item. And right now, you have what's called an AR pistol. You will not have a short-barreled rifle, thus an NFA item, which can be transferred into a trust until you submit your initial Form 1 and have that approved. If that is approved, you now, congratulations, are the proud parent of an NFA item. And if you then want to transfer it into the gun trust, you will do so. But remember, that transfer is not going to come with a $200 amnesty. It will have a $200 price tag. There are many benefits, however, for having a gun trust. Co-ownership, co-possession. Right now, I could loan one of my handguns or something like that to my brother-in-law if he wanted to go to the range and shoot. Okay, I have no reason to doubt he lawfully can possess firearms. It's a perfectly lawful transfer at that point. However, if he wants to borrow one of my short barrel rifles, if he wants to borrow one of my suppressors, oh no. Unless I'm there in his presence, he and I are both going to be felons for me giving him that NFA item. Now, also, what's also important is that when you die, and unfortunately that day does come for all of us, okay, the transferring the inheritance of NFA items can be really difficult, sometimes even impossible, depending on what state you're in. The existence of a valid NFA gun trust will streamline that process and secure your assets so that you can pass them on to your heirs as you see fit. So listen, I know you guys are going to have a lot of questions about this. For my Washington viewers, you can check out waguntrust.com. That's waguntrust.com, and you can get signed up and get the ball rolling right there. For the rest of you, here's how it works. If you got any questions about this, the pistol brace rule, or anything else of what's related or left of your Second Amendment rights, you guys can always contact us directly at WashingtonGunLaw.com, or you can call us directly at 425-765-0487. Now, in the meantime, let's remember, part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation and how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching. Stay safe.